Alrighty, hey everyone. I just wanted to quickly explain how the Box Lunch Social works for those of you who may not know. This year it is on Thursday, March 20, which is 2 weeks from now. The Box Lunch Social is a fundraising event where each year we put you into groups of about 4 to 7 people. If you are a girl, you are with girls in your class. If you're a boy, you're with boys in your class. Each year it alternates between who cooks the meal. This year the boys are in charge of cooking. So the boy groups will plan ahead and cook a meal for about 8 to 14 people. And they will also design a box. This box can be themed according to the type of food you are making, or it can just be totally random. When that day comes, boys, you will bring your box and your food to school. The lunch period that day will be extended to about an hour, and when the bell rings, girls, you'll head to the night center, while the boys set up their tables and do the final preparations for their food in the gym. In the night center, the boxes will be auctioned off to the girl groups. The price per box is per person. So for example, if the box goes for $20, each person in that group needs to pay $20. Your group will then find the boys who created the box you bought and sit and enjoy that meal with them in the gym. The 3 organizations we are fundraising for are One Body, One Hope, the American Red Cross, and the Family Crisis Center. Your assigned groups and more information will be sent out shortly after chapel. So if you have any questions, feel free to let me or Ms. Vanderkoy know. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Ava. So this morning, probably less of a chapel. I don't know if it would be considered more of an assembly this morning, but we just wanted to spend a little bit of time helping you as a student body get to know a new staff member here at school. You maybe saw some information or maybe heard some things from your parents about it, or maybe you were here and on Monday you saw Hannah in my office and just kind of who's this person, who's here at school, and just maybe some questions. So we just wanted to talk a little bit about that, just kind of as a student body, maybe answer some questions that you might have, talk a little bit about how each of us is here to serve students in various capacities, and just maybe give some better clarity or understanding in our different roles and ways that we're here to help you guys as students. But just kind of a brief background into some of this as well. I know for our CSI accreditation that we go through as a school, and just kind of strategic planning, something that has come up for our student body and for our school parents is just making sure that we have adequate mental health services here in our school, staffed for you as students, making sure that we have appropriate people here in our building to help our student body, just because we know that mental health is a big area of need just in schools in general, just people in general, churches, and we want to make sure that while you guys are here at school that you're getting just the help that you need in a lot of different areas, and we want to make sure that we care about you holistically as students, academically, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And so as we've kind of moved through that, recently our school board had kind of approved a new position here at our school as a school social worker. And so we've added Hannah on board officially for our school. And so if you just want to just talk a little bit briefly, Hannah, about just kind of your background, family, education, work experience, just kind of get us a little bit of who you are and kind of what brought you here to Unity.
Yeah, that sounds good. So yeah, I'm Hannah Butine, and it's really great to be here and seeing all of you and starting to get to know even some of you. So I grew up in Wisconsin, outside Milwaukee, and went to Dordt University, so that's what brought me here to the area. And I got my social work degree. After that, I went on to get my master's at the University of Iowa, and I started working at Sioux Center Health, doing more general social work in the hospital setting. So I would help patients if they were facing barriers with going home after a hospital stay, whether that was in the OB or in the ER, and either connect them with resources or just meet with them and their family, give them some support as they prepared to possibly make a life change. So I did that for about 4 years, and then after that I finished my master's and I started doing therapy at the hospital. So that's what I do now, and I've been doing that for the past 6 years.
Okay, and your master's degree is in social work, correct?
Yes, that's right.
And
Yep.
where is that master's degree from?
From the University of Iowa.
Okay.
I got that done. Mhm.
Excellent. So kind of a new role here at Unity as a school social worker. What exactly will you be doing at Unity? Like what kind of is your role here at Unity?
Yeah, so in meeting with Wayne and kind of talking about the vision that he had and the board had for this position, I will be available to meet with any of you. The school has, kind of had this vision to provide students with 2 sessions or visits with me at any point that you guys would want that. In my training and some of the things, maybe we'll talk about what that could look like, that I could provide that. And that could be either, just once or twice that we meet, or if it feels like, I feel like if I could work with someone a little bit longer for a couple months or however that might be to kind of get somewhere further if I'm feeling stuck, then we could do that too for ongoing therapy.
Okay, awesome. So I know each of us, you've got maybe some clients that you've worked with at the hospital, and so you've got kind of a counseling rapport that you've built. And I know, Melinda, you also as a school nurse, meeting with kids about some medical things, and sometimes that dives into a little bit of mental health as well, and I'll meet with some various students too. Do you want to maybe touch base a little bit, Melinda, kind of your role and kind of what you kind of oversee and your job and what you're going to be helping with here at Unity? So, because I think sometimes maybe kids will get confused. Who should I talk to if I have a question about this or that? So maybe a little clarity on some of those to help kids out a little bit.
Yeah, so I'm here as the school nurse, but I'm also here as an office assistant, so that's why I'm at the front desk with Kelsey. But I'm always available. She knows that if a student needs me, whether that's for something physical, or if you're just having a rough day and need to vent or just talk to someone, you can also just say, hey, do you have a minute? And we can go find a private place and I'm not going to share any of that information. And so as office assistant, if you come into the office and Kelsey's busy, you can always ask me about those things too. And so that's kind of where my role is. And like Jake said, I want to see our student body as holistically as I can. So if you have a headache and you need ibuprofen, that's what I'm going to do. I'm not always going to be thinking, oh, could that mean something? No, sometimes you just have a headache, and that's fine, and I want to be here. Or if you need eye drops or anything physically, or if you have questions, hey, this is happening, what do you think that is? I'm also here for those kind of questions. So.
Awesome. And I know you've been a great resource for us, having some more hours here since you joined, and it's just been really beneficial to have you here as well.
Can I add one more thing? And
yeah,
so
absolutely.
in that, being here more hours, Hannah will be here on Mondays, and she'll talk about that in a little while, but I want to also be kind of the in-between, that if you do really want to talk to someone with more training, I'll kind of be in on that process, which we'll talk about a little later. So.
Yep, and that's kind of a info for Hannah. She's here kind of 1 day a week to start. She'll be here every Monday. She'll be here about 8:30 to 2:30 on Mondays. So if you want to visit with her on a Monday, please feel free to get that set up, and Melinda can share a little bit about how that might get set up later. But if you want to visit with her, she'll for sure be here on Mondays. As we've kind of talked at the board level, we kind of have things approved that if we see a great need, and if Hannah feels like, hey, I need a little more time here, we have the potential to bump her up to 2 days a week here. If we see that we might have her here 2 days a week, but we'll just kind of see how things go at the start. And over time, if we need to grow that, we can certainly do that. But for the meantime, she'll be here 1 day a week. So kind of that Tuesday to Friday, we want you as students to feel comfortable talking to other people here at school, whether it's Melinda, whether it's myself. I know there's a lot of great relationships that you guys have with teachers or coaches or other people, and we really value being a relational school. So if there's something that you're ever going through and you just need someone to listen, someone to talk to, any one of the three of us are more than willing to sit down, and we visit with students regularly, and we want to be that resource for you. But we also know that sometimes in certain situations you might be more comfortable talking with someone else. You know, maybe you're in a play and you just feel a lot more comfortable with Miss Van Dyke and you got something going on, you want to talk with her about that. Like that's great. Or maybe you're on the basketball team and you get really connected with Mr. Van Kempen or Mr. Harskamp, and so you want to talk with them about something that's going on in your life. Like, we want to know that there's lots of resources here available at school, and each one of the three of us meets with different students for various needs: medical, academic, mental health, and social, and we want to provide those resources for you. But she'll be here primarily Mondays, and then as that potentially transitions, we might add a second day in there as well. So what exactly, as kids here, school social worker, maybe I want to visit with you, what exactly would like a session with a school social worker look like? What does that entail?
Sure, yeah. Well, if we would sit down and meet, there would first just be some kind of logistic things I would want to talk to you about, like confidentiality, HIPAA, things like that. But then I would want to just listen and kind of get to know you and hear kind of what you've been noticing or what's been happening that prompted you to want to meet, and really just, get an idea of what's going on. And at that point, it would either be, kind of maybe making sense of what you're going through and what's happening, and maybe there are some ways to help you work through that just in those first couple sessions that we could do. Otherwise, it might be continuing to meet and applying some therapy models with what you have going on. So the therapy models that I have training in are cognitive behavioral therapy, and that looks at kind of how we think and we feel in patterns, and how some of those patterns might not be true about ourselves or others, or how we see the world, and ultimately kind of keep us stuck or feeling more insecure or unsure. And so it can help to just help ourselves tell truer stories about who God says that we are, and others. And so that's cognitive behavioral therapy. I also have training in trauma therapy, including EMDR, which is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing therapy. So that's kind of a mouthful, but there might be things that we go through, experience in our lives, traumatic experiences that leave us feeling a certain way, again, about ourselves or others, and it kind of stays stuck in our bodies. And so EMDR is a evidence-based therapy that helps us to be able to move through those experiences and be able to become more adaptive as we move forward. So, and then I also have training, specialized training in couples and family therapy. So I know that you guys aren't probably planning to get married anytime soon, but it's helpful in that, there's this thing called attachment science that we're built in our bodies for attachment relationships, that God has wired us for that. But sometimes with that, we can also feel stuck, or things can kind of go off course. And so that's also something I have training into, to be able to help and assess in relationships, whether friendships, boyfriend, girlfriend, family, things like that.
Awesome, thank you. Melinda, I know we've talked a little bit sometimes about just kind of that close line with mental and physical. Sometimes there's things going on physically or medically, and it starts to impact our mental state, or vice versa. Maybe there's something going on mentally and it starts to manifest itself physically. Where exactly do we start? Could you touch a little bit on that from your work as a nurse?
Yeah, and I talked a little bit about holistic, and so that's kind of where that comes from. Some providers are really good at recognizing that. Sometimes we get really focused on the medical and the physical part, what can we find? But just knowing, I think it's good to start there. Looking into, and so that's, if you come and talk to me, I might recommend that you go see your doctor. As a nurse, I'm not able to diagnose anything. I can just kind of look at what you're having, go to my experience. I've worked in an ER, so doing triage there. I've worked in a clinic. So just what would I recommend? And oftentimes that will be to go to a medical doctor. Make sure there's not a physical reason for what's going on. But some things are, stomach aches are notorious. It can be anxiety. And so, but I think it's good to go be checked out medically. But if when I'm talking to you, you're talking a lot about maybe stress with your friendships or tests that you're taking, those kind of things, that might have a picture into this might be something that you're struggling with. And so I think it depends on the situation, which one I would recommend. And so, but it's amazing to just do a Google search of how does physical health affect mental health, and then vice versa. There's lots of symptoms that can be from our mind having control over our body. But also, if something physical is going on, that can really affect how we're feeling and how we're acting in relationships. And so physical things can also cause those things too. So it's a delicate balance, and so just being aware that it might be either one is, I think, the best place to start.
So if a student, as they're listening and they're thinking, hey, I might want to visit with Hannah, what is the best way to go about getting that set up? Like, is it something that, hey, I see the doors open, the light's on, I can just pop in? Do I need to email you? Like, what is the best way for a student to get set up to visit with you, Hannah?
So since I'm only here one day a week, the best way to set something up would be to email or stop in and talk to Melinda, is kind of how we decided to navigate that. And so I'm going to jump into the next one. My schedule will be, I will see students that will follow the class schedule on Mondays. So that means I can have up to 7 sessions on those days. And I will leave a couple of those to be for things that just come up that day, in case, there's a situation that feels more pressing or overwhelming that I could potentially do that. Otherwise, the rest will be, as a follow-up or those scheduled sessions with students.
So if you are interested, if you're listening and you think you might want to visit with Hannah, the best way for you guys to go about doing that is you can email Melinda or stop in the office, talk with her, and then she can look at Hannah's schedule and see when she might have some availability and when we can schedule you to visit with her as well. As we're kind of talking about that a little bit, I know sometimes a barrier sometimes for people to visit with like a social worker, a therapist, a counselor is sometimes that confidentiality. How much of what I share, is that going to get passed on? If a student might be having troubles at home or issues maybe with their parents, they want to talk about that. Maybe a student might be cautious to visit with someone because they don't want that to then get shared with their parents. So what does confidentiality look like in probably each of our roles? So I'll start with you, Hannah, and then Melinda and I, we can each jump into. But what would confidentiality look like for you?
Yeah, that's a good question. So your parents do have to give consent to you meeting with me. So that's something that Melinda's going to kind of coordinate to make sure that your parents are okay with us meeting. And then visits are confidential. So even as minors, your information and the things you share with me are confidential. I can't share that without your permission to do so, but there are limits to that. So in regards to your safety and your well-being, so if something is potentially dangerous for you, or there's a risk of it harming you physically or mentally, and it's important that someone else, your parents or others, be made aware to ensure your safety, then then that would need to happen. But that would be a conversation that we would have together, so you would be made aware, and yeah, so it wouldn't be surprising.
What about for you, Melinda? What does that look like, kind of confidentiality in the medical sense for you?
Yeah, very similar. If it's going to affect your safety or well-being, we would contact your parents, and I think we do that well as a school. If you're wondering, we're not going to post the schedule of who's seeing Hannah. It will be a private calendar, so you don't have to worry about somebody figuring it out, those kind of things as well. Yeah, I think she said it really well.
Awesome. So as I kind of think too about a student trying to decide, should I talk to someone, should I visit, how would I know if I should see someone or talk to someone? How do I differentiate between some of that normal everyday stress that comes with being a high school student and maybe some of those stresses that are a bit abnormal where it would be a wise idea to talk with someone?
I always think about, with that question, where do you feel like it's getting in the way? If you're noticing changes, or if it's getting in the way of your sleep, for instance, of your eating, of socializing, or just doing things that you would like to do, and it feels like it really holds you back, or it's keeping you from those goals, or kind of what you envision to be, what that means to live well for you, then that would be a good time to reach out if it's holding you back.
Yeah, because we know there's just the normal everyday stresses of you've got a game or you've got a test, and so you're a little bit nervous about that. But when it starts to, I can't get out of bed to get to school that day, and I can't do certain everyday normal functions, that's when it's probably a good time to start thinking about seeing someone a little bit more professionally. So.
Yeah, for sure. You think about healthy stress or anxiety as it's preparing you to meet a challenge. So if you're taking a test or you're giving a performance of some kind, you're going to feel that anxiety or nervousness or energy in your body, but typically that should subside after that event has occurred. So if you're continuing to feel that hypervigilance all the time, or it's not going away in between these events or different things that bring it up, then it would probably be a good idea to reach out.
Awesome. Well, just to kind of summarize again, we want to make sure that you as students feel cared for holistically, and so we're excited to have Hannah on board here on Mondays just to serve our students in a little bit more of a professional capacity with her really great background, experience, just having someone who has that master's degree and has specific therapeutic techniques that she can integrate to work with our students that would like to visit with her. So we're very excited to have her on board. Hopefully this allows you to get to know her a little bit, and then a little bit of the logistics of if you're interested in meeting with her or visiting with her, how to go about doing that. But you guys are dismissed for this morning, and have a great rest of your day.